Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. The Tennessee Titans just landed DeAndre Hopkins, and this is absolutely huge news, especially for second-year wide receiver Treylon Burks. Let me tell you guys why in today's video. Now is the perfect time to buy low on Treylon Burks. Not only that, but let me explain why the DeAndre Hopkins news is very good news for Treylon Burks. There's going to be two parts to this video. Part one is going to be this situation. Then part two is going to be the talent that is Treylon Burks. So let's get into the situation first and foremost. So of course, going into this year, the Tennessee Titans had arguably the worst wide receiver core in the National Football League. Not only was Treylon Burks the number one receiver, he was going to be garnering the number one cornerback on every single team every single week, as there's absolutely no depth behind Treylon Burks. And really, for the most part, the wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 on the Tennessee Titans before this DeAndre Hopkins deal were the absolute worst 2, 3, and 4 in the National Football League. But now Treylon Burks gets to be the number 2 receiver, not garnering the number 1 cornerback on the opposing team with DeAndre Hopkins there. DeAndre Hopkins still garners a lot of attention on the outside and even in the slot. And make no mistake about it, the talent is absolutely still there for DeAndre Hopkins. I know it wasn't ideal. He missed a lot of games due to suspension last year, but when he played, he really did not play with Kyler Murray for the majority of the snaps he did play in, and even then, he finished wide receiver 9 in fantasy football in terms of points per game. I know what you guys are saying right now. Mike from Mike Talk Sports. Okay, it's good that Treylon Burks isn't going to be guarded by the best cornerback week in and week out, but there's too many mouths to feed on the Tennessee Titans. They still have King Henry there, and they just added DeAndre Hopkins. There's too many mouths to feed. I completely disagree with this, and here's why, guys. Let's look back at 2020, arguably the best season for the Tennessee Titans in really the past 15 years, the best season of Ryan Tannehill's career and the best season of Derrick Henry's career. So in this year, A.J. Brown, their number 1 receiver, had 70 catches on 106 targets. A good amount of targets for a wide receiver number 1, especially considering they had Derrick Henry run for 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 378 attempts. So you already had a significant amount of mouths to feed in 2020. Well, let's take a look at 2 other players who were not the main targets of this offense, despite having a significant amount of attention to A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. Tight end Jonnu Smith still had 65 targets, 45 catches on 445 yards, and most importantly, guys, the wide receiver 2 of this football team, the third target in this offense, which will be Treylon Burks this year. So the third target in 2020 was Corey Davis, and Corey Davis still had 92 targets in this season, a significant amount of targets, 65 catches, 984 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So if Corey Davis, a guy who, in my opinion, is a talented wide receiver, I think he's been buried on the Jets depth chart, but for the most part, guys, I'm pretty confident in saying Treylon Burks is a better prospect coming out of college than Corey Davis was, despite Corey Davis also being a first-round pick, and I'm just more trustworthy of the talent that is Treylon Burks. So if Corey Davis in the same offense with the same amount of target shares could almost put up 1,000 yards, I'm pretty confident that Treylon Burks could get close to 1,000 yards, if not past that 1,000-yard mark this season in a very similar situation. So how about the talent that is Treylon Burks? Let's dive a little bit into that now. He was a phenomenal prospect coming out of college at Arkansas. At his true freshman season, he made all SEC true freshman first team, as he was a very good return man. Not only that, but he made an immediate impact as a very young kid in the receiving game. He ended up being the 4th player in Arkansas history to pass that 1,000-yard mark in his true junior year, and he ended up declaring after his true junior year, after making the All-SEC first team as a junior. Not only that, he had 65 catches, 1,104 yards, and 12 total touchdowns. Treylon Burks gets such an unnecessary amount of shit because he was basically swapped for A.J. Brown. But guys, come on. Treylon Burks is not the freaking GM of the Tennessee Titans. He's a football player. He has nothing to do with the situation he's in. Rather, he just needs to go out there and perform. And I think he's now in a very nice situation to perform. From a talent perspective, man, is he good with the ball in his hands after the catch. He ran a 4.55 40-yard dash, and in my opinion, this really did cause him to slip in the draft as he had very nice game speed, but it doesn't really translate to the track, to the 40-yard dash time, but I'm really not worried about that speed. He has very good game speed. He was consistently outrunning teams in secondaries such as Alabama. So he's a 6'2", 225-pound absolute tank out there, very similar to A.J. Brown in terms of their skill set. Are they good route runners? Not necessarily. Are they crazy shifty guys at the line of scrimmage with this incredible release package? Not necessarily, but they're very big targets out there that do a very nice job at framing out the cornerbacks, and not only do they have very good contested catch ability, but again, more importantly, they're very good after the catch. But something I like out of Treylon Burks also, he's a very good perimeter receiver. He's very good at stacking the cornerbacks and again, coming up with those contested catches. And Treylon Burks, to me, really is a perfect fit in this offense with Ryan Tannehill. Of course, Ryan Tannehill's number one skill set are those play action boots, and that's where Treylon Burks, a guy who doesn't have an incredible release package, really does thrive, as he really thrives at those longer developing routes, those drag routes out of those play action boots. And from there, after the catch on those crossers, he's very instinctive in the open field, and again, he's a very powerful runner with deceptive speed. Now, one area of concern for Treylon Burks is, of course, the quarterback position. Now, I do trust in Ryan Tannehill to muster out at least one good season left in him. Other than that, of course, we're relying on Malik Willis or Will Levis. Now, I'm not necessarily the biggest Will Levis guy, but now Will Levis gets a pretty good situation to come into. Even then, I think the Tennessee Titans could be drafting a quarterback in the first round in the next couple of years if it really doesn't work out. So I really like Treylon Burks not only for next year in fantasy, but I really like him from a dynasty fantasy perspective. I'm seeing him go on a lot of trade blocks on the Fantasy Sleeper app, and I'm really excited about his potential upside. Thanks for listening to this video, guys. Let me know in the comment section below, do you agree with my take that Treylon Burks is a great sleeper buy now guy in fantasy football?